Hey, all right. Welcome back. We are week 4 of our e-learning experience. And this week, we're still learning about ecosystems and organisms within those ecosystems. And now we're specifically going to focus on ecological succession. Your objective for learning or your expectations are as follows. The student is expected to observe and describe how different environments, including microhabitats in schoolyards and biomes, support different varieties of organisms, describe how biodiversity contributes to the sustainability of an ecosystem, and last but not least, what we're focusing on this week, observe, record, and describe the role of ecological succession within a microhabitat, such as a microhabitat of garden with weeds. Your key concepts, what we're going to be zoning in on. Organisms exhibit interdependency in ecosystems, whether small microhabitats or large complex biomes. The greater the biodiversity in an ecosystem, the greater sustainability, and we learned that last week. However, all ecosystems change over time as their populations transition through a natural ecological succession toward a climax community. Now, I do know that there's a lot of new words in here, so we're going to spend some time in just a minute and we'll talk about these vocabulary words. Your next key concept, a healthy ecosystem exhibits biological diversity within and between trophic levels. As biodiversity of an ecosystem increases, the ability to withstand environmental stress due to the loss of a single species or a group also increases, improving the sustainability of that ecosystem. And all that means is that the more different plants and animals, all the different varieties that we have in an area, if you were to take out one component, that ecosystem still survives and replenishes itself. And we talked about that last week, the difference between a food chain and a food web. And then the last one says or states ecological succession is the transition of organisms over time in a community, such as the changes that occur in a garden with weeds or the regrowth of an area after a forest fire, so that when a change does take place in an ecosystem, how life can renew or even begin in that particular space. Okay, this is from last week. So one of your vocabulary words that you're going to see again is biodiversity. And again, bio meaning life and diverse meaning difference. So we're talking about all the different species of plants and animals in an area. And the more biodiversity you have, the more sustainable or the more stable it is. And you learned last week that of all the different terrestrial biomes, your rainforest, your tropical rainforest was the most biodiverse. Okay, again, sustainable meaning stable or healthy. This is a new word for this week. So let's look at the word succession. Now, the word succession itself, like to succeed, means to come after. So, like you could even be talking about in the presidency, which president succeeded, Barack Obama. So you would hopefully know that is Donald Trump. In the terms of ecological succession, we're talking about an ecosystem now and how it progresses or how it can change over time. So the word ecological succession simply means a series of changes in a community over time. In other words, the gradual change over time. And as we get through this little lesson today, you're going to see that we're going to be looking at primary succession versus secondary succession. And that is one of your main points of learning. Okay, the word, you're going to see pioneer species. And what you need to know about a pioneer species, like the word pioneer, if you're talking about like in history class when you learn about the pioneer days, we know that pioneer means or is like the first group of organisms to come into a particular area. So when we're talking ecological succession and we say pioneer species, all we mean is it's the first plants to come in and colonize an area, therefore making it able for bigger organisms to slowly move in over time. Examples of pioneer species you're going to see are lichen, which you've probably seen this out on trees before. It's kind of like a mold. I guess you can consider it like that. So lichen, mosses, grasses, these are examples of pioneer species that would come into an ecosystem first. Um, Tomorrow, or when you do your second assignment this week, you're going to watch a video and they'll show you what pioneer species are responsible for, um, talking about if it's primary or secondary succession. The word climax community will come up this week. So, what you need to know about a climax community, just like in reading class, when you hit the climax of the story, that's like the high point, right? Where, it comes up, and then whatever the problem is, it's been rectified, right? So there's a solution being met. So in ecological succession, when we talk about a climax community, that's what we're talking about, the high point. Hey, when this particular environment reaches its best and most stable state, that is what we mean by a climax community. Think of it as the last stage of succession, because that's the goal. Okay, as a ecosystem changes and grows over time, climax community would be the end point, the high point. All right, let's talk about primary succession now. If you think about the word primary, you probably realize that the word primary actually means like first. Okay, so this is where primary succession, I'm just going to read the definition and explain to you, and we'll look at the picture down here. It says primary succession occurs in essentially lifeless areas. Okay, there is no soil present. And there's no life present, because without soil, you can't have plants. Without plants, you can't have animals. So primary succession will take place. Some examples are like lava flows. So you've learned before that as a volcano erupts and the lava flows down, that will cool off and form igneous rock. And over time, what will happen to that igneous rock is, like the pioneer species, the lichen and the moss will grow, come in and slowly break that rock into soil, and then therefore allowing grasses to come, and then flowers to come. Okay. Oops, let me get back. Sorry about that. So starting as rock, and then now in stage 2 here, this would be your pioneer species like your moss or your lichen. And then over time, and we're talking years and years that this takes place, the rocks are broken into soil. And after you get a thick and nutritious soil there, grasses will come in. And then the next stage would be like smaller plants, flowers. And then you'll get shrubs and bushes. And eventually, as you have these small plants, you're going to get small herbivores come in, birds, butterflies, things like that, which will lead to bigger animals moving in because of the smaller animals being present. And then at the end, you're left with this climax community, this healthy, stable ecosystem. So primary succession, meaning beginning from rock, no soil, no life. Okay. Secondary succession, we're going to look at this one now. Secondary succession, like the word second, number 2, means that actually there was life there already. And then some sort of disturbance comes in. Okay. So here it says occurs in areas where a community previously existed and then has been removed. And then it has to rebuild itself. So good examples of secondary succession would be like a forest fire. Okay, like in this picture here. We have a healthy, stable climax community, and you have a disruption like a fire or a flood, things like that come through. A tornado could come through and wipe this area out. So you're going to have soil still there. So this is the difference between primary and secondary succession, is you have soil already there. So when the pioneer species moves in, it won't be lichen or moss. Typically, in secondary succession, their pioneer species is going to be like grass, because you already have the soil there. So you'll have the grass, which leads to the flowers, which will then lead to the shrubs and the smaller bushes, which will bring in small herbivores. And over time, again, this is a gradual change, you'll end up with another climax community being very healthy, very stable, with lots of different plants and animals there. Okay, here's a fun fact for you. Succession doesn't just happen in land or on land. Okay, it happens within your aquatic ecosystems too. So last week we learned about the freshwater, the lakes, the ponds, the streams, and then you learned about the marine, the ocean. Okay, succession happens there as well. And I put a little picture on here that shows you an example of what the pond succession could look like, because over time, we have this water, we have this, and you can see you have a little bit of plants, and then you have, with erosion, okay, some soil or something may be brought in or washed in, and you have plants now you have more plants coming, because now you have more soil, and the water's not so deep, so the light can penetrate through, support plants. And again, now we have lots more soil here, so we have plants coming and being able to take root with throughout the pond, and eventually over time, some ponds dry up and you lose your water, and then you're just left with a terrestrial ecosystem now. Here's what we learned today. Here's a quick summary. The world is always changing, so we must change too. We have to adapt too. There's two kinds of succession. You have primary succession, secondary succession. Primary is when there was no life. It typically starts with a pioneer species like lichen or moss that have to break that rock into soil so smaller plants can move in. And then it will end with a climax community, hopefully if things go well. Okay. You have secondary succession, which was there was already an ecosystem there. So you already have soil there. It is some sort of disturbance comes in, and then that ecosystem must rebuild itself. Rebuild being your keyword. Okay. Due to the fact that primary succession comes from nothing but rock, it takes a lot longer. Okay. This is a much slower process. Both types of succession end in a healthy, sustainable ecosystem. And the more biodiversity ecosystem has, the healthier it is, the more sustainable it is. Therefore, the better chance of rebuilding itself if a disturbance were to come in. So here is what we're going to do next. When you finish my video, this video, you are going to go back to your Google Classroom and you're going to find the video that's posted on Succession from YouTube. And I'm going to let you know right now, it's Amoeba Sisters. We love the Amoeba Sisters. So you're going to watch it. Actually, and this says answer the question of the day. That is not true. There is no question of the day. You're just going to watch the video. After you watch your Amoeba Sister video, the third and the last assignment for this week is simply going to be, there's an interactive Google Slides that I'm posting as well. That's what you're going to be working on for your grade this week. So just open up the slides after you watch the Amoeba Sister video, and make sure you read and follow all the directions that are there, because it tells you exactly what to do and how to turn it in for your grade. And I even put some extensions on there for you. All right, until next time, bye.